My eyelid just twitched. Hey, welcome. Welcome. Hey. My name is Quinn. I do book things. I read books sometimes, maybe. And today we're going to be doing these books will self-destruct. I look like I'm being held at gunpoint. I'm so sorry. Today I have 14 books that will self-destruct in 12 months' time. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this stack. They were behind me, by the way, if you didn't notice. Let's go through them and I'll tell you why I'm going to either get rid of them or read them in 2025. Starting with The Shining by Stephen King. I really wanted to challenge myself to read a Stephen King book this year because I have started and DNF'd 2 Stephen King books already. They were It and Pet Sematary. Pet Sematary I DNF'd because I got it spoiled for me and it pissed me off so bad that I just didn't want to read the book anymore. I was about 3/4 of the way through. And then It, I got about 1/3 of the way through before I realized that the book is just really long and I couldn't stand it any longer. But the reason that I'm specifically challenging myself to read The Shining and ignore that this is the ugly mass market paperback copy is because I watched this movie earlier this year and I have issues reading books after I have already watched the movie because I feel like I know too much about the plot and what's going to happen. And I feel like it's a very similar situation to Pet Sematary where I kind of know how it ends, so I kind of don't care to read it. Next. Okay, so the next book is The Binding. The reason that I want to read this book is, well, the reason I wanted to read this book and bought it, even though it's an absolute chunker, I had no idea, is because I saw it on TikTok or YouTube or something, literally one time, and I put it in my cart and bought it. And I don't even know the synopsis for this book. I just knew that I wanted to read it, like maybe eventually, if not never. I have a strong feeling that this will make it to the end of the year unread and it will be going. So, we'll see. Breathe, buddy. You're literally fine. Okay, the next book that I have is All the Bright Places. This is another book that has a movie adaptation. It literally has a Netflix sticker that you can't remove, which also pisses me off. Once again, I bought this book without actually knowing what it's about, and so do I actually want to read this? I don't know, but it is more of a YA book, I believe, and I'm turning 21 in a month, so I'm trying to get rid of as many YA books as possible before I'm like 25 and I don't give a shit about what happens to high schoolers. The next book I have is Dance 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 by Haruki Murakami. The reason that I want to read this book is because I own 3 Haruki Murakami books that I bought before I knew he was like a terrible misogynistic person, and now I just want to read at least one of his books to test the waters because I started After Dark, which I also own, but I didn't like it that much, so I DNF'd it. So I want to give this book a try. I also have the Wind-Up Bird Chronicles, but I don't want to read that one. 1, because it's absolutely fucking massive, and 2, because my parents read it, and it opens with a sex scene. So that was a really awkward conversation to have, and I'm kind of like at Haruki Murakami for doing me so dirty, and I just want to see if I vibe with this author literally at all. Next I have The Jungle Book. Once again, I'm trying to get rid of as many YA books as possible before I'm in my mid to late 20s, and I just don't have a taste for YA or like middle grade books anymore at all. So I would like to read this. Maybe I have a feeling that this will be another book that makes it the whole way to the end of the year and I just have to get rid of it because once again, there's a movie. I don't know that I actually like really feel the need to read the book also. Now the next book The next book brings up some very hard memories. The next book is called Hello, parentheses, from here. This is a fucking romance book about COVID. Do I actually want to read this? No. I probably bought it because I thought the cover was pretty. I do judge books by their cover, and I am ashamed of it because I saw a pretty sunset and I didn't care about the content of the book. I don't want to read this. I don't want to read this, and I have a feeling it'll make it to the end of the year once again because I don't actually feel like I want to read this. It's a nice hardcover, but it's literally about the COVID-19 pandemic, and I don't think I'm far enough removed to read a book about it, but I also think if we get much further removed from it, it will be relevant at all, and I won't want to read it either way. So the next book I really do think I will read this year, at least I hope, and I think it's probably the only book on this entire list that I would consider keeping instead of letting it self-destruct, because I do really want to read it. It's just that the glossy texture of the book drives me up the wall. Like, I'm going crazy over the texture of this book. I can't stand to look at it. I can't stand to feel it. What I need to do is this. That's better, almost. I hate taking the dust jackets off though too. Like, it doesn't make it better. I don't think this is a book that I could keep even if I gave it like 4+ stars. So this book really interests me, actually. It's about like jazz and crime in New Orleans, and I think it's super interesting. It's just such a bad texture, and I can't stand for it to sit on my shelf any longer. So I would really like to read it so I can decide if I'm going to get rid of it or keep it. I'm also the type of person that only keeps the books that they absolutely adore so that I can eventually curate a full 5-star library. That is my goal for like 20 years from now. The next book I chose to self-destruct in 12 months' time is another book that is kind of like YA. It's called This Is Where It Ends. I don't think I said the name of the last one. It's just called King Zeno. But This Is Where It Ends is a book, I believe, about a school shooting. Yes. This is in a few years not going to be relevant to me at all because I won't remember what high school was like, especially after I graduate from college. So it's definitely a book that I want to finish during my time in college, and I am running out of time for that. So I would like to read this in the year 2025 or just get rid of it. Next stack. Oh, fuck. Okay, so the first book on this stack is called Hold Still, and it is, I believe, another YA book, but more than that, I want to get rid of this because this is a book that I thrifted, and I've never heard of it online anywhere, and I don't know if it'll actually be good at all. I'm pretty sure it is, once again, a pretty heavy topic for a fucking YA book. Yes, it's about a girl who commits suicide, and it's about the aftermath and how her best friend goes on living life. I think it's a great concept. I think it's beautiful, but I don't know if it'll actually end up being like a super great book. So I don't know that I actually really want to read it. So the next book I've been holding on to for a really long time. It was one of the first books that I ever bought when I was getting into book buying and not reading. It's Eat, Pray, Love. You probably are aware of the content of this book. This is a book that my mom read like when it first came out. Once again, there's a movie. Do I really need to read the book? Probably not. It is also like pretty dense. So even though it's only like 330 pages, I don't know that I'll actually get around to reading it, and I don't know that I want to. This one is actually like super hard for me to put on this list, but it's one of the first books I bought also. It's Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which is such a mouthful to say. But also, do I care? Do I care this much? Probably not. Also, do I care plus 5 books? No, I don't think so. I think very sincerely that this will be one of the books that ends up getting dropped at the end of the year, because I don't foresee myself reading this. Okay, the next book that I have is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. This one I do want to read because I've heard it has good autistic representation. However, I don't know that I care anymore, because I've had this book forever. 1, 2, I see it in every single thrift store, which means people aren't keeping it, which means they don't like it, ? 3, it's another YA book. It's another, like, middle grade, like, for children book. Not children, but, like, teenagers. And once again, I'm not sure I will have very much interest once I do get around to reading this, so I don't know if I will end up reading it. Thank you very much. Yet another book that pisses me off with this glossy cover and has a movie. Never Let Me Go by
Kazuo Ishiguro.
Never Let Me Go is a book that I once again just bought because I saw it on TikTok or BookTube, and one person recommended it to me, and suddenly I felt like it would be the end of the world if I didn't own the book. But do I actually want to read it? Probably not. We'll see. Only time will tell. But if I don't read it this year, I'm going to get rid of it because I don't think I care anymore. I don't think I really need to own this book. I don't know if it'll actually do anything for me if I do read it, so we'll see. The very last book that I have on here, I actually started reading and DNF'd earlier this year. It's called The Reader. I've never seen or heard of it before. I picked it up in a thrift store like a year ago. Once again, I tried to read it, got like 30 pages in probably, DNF'd it earlier this year. And honestly, the premise sounds kind of interesting, but it kind of gives Lolita in a way that I'm maybe uncomfortable while reading it. But I think its intention is to make you uncomfortable. I just don't know if I'm super invested in the plot, especially considering I already started reading it and gave up on it. I don't know that this book will make it. So these are the 14 books that will self-destruct in 12 months' time. Stay tuned to find out if I read them or not, because I will do a video update next year around this time, God willing, that will let you know if I finished them. All right, I'm super bad at outros, actually, because I'm, like, really awkward and I don't know how to, like, say goodbye to people. LOL. Have a good day. Bye-bye.